How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Good, that's good. Okay, so today I want to talk to you guys about Sir Winston Churchill. Does anybody know anything about Winston Churchill? Angie back there.
He's British.
That's right. You.
He was a general.
No, he actually wasn't a general. He was the Prime Minister of England during World War II. Right back there?
That's it.
Okay. And she
I was gonna say that.
Okay. So let's get started with Winston Churchill. Right here, this is a quote by Winston Churchill. This is a lesson. Never give in. Never give in. Never, never, never. In nothing great or small, large or petty, never give in. Accept to convictions of honor and good sense. Never yield to force. Never yield to the apparently overwhelming might of the enemy. This is basically Winston Churchill's life right here. Throughout his life, he had tons of challenges and tons of things to get over. He never gave in to any of them, and he pushed through to accomplish his goal. So today I want to talk to you about Winston Churchill's early life, his military service, his time as Prime Minister during World War II, and his later life and death. So let's get started on Winston Churchill's early life. Winston Churchill was born November 30th, 1874, into the aristocratic family of the Dukes of Marlborough. His father was Lord Randolph Churchill, and his mother was Lady Jenny Jerome. Randolph Churchill was a politician in British Parliament, and his mother, Lady Jenny, she was actually an American citizen, and her father was a multi-millionaire named Leonard Jerome. Next, he was born at the Bellingham Palace in Oxfordshire, England. Right back here you can see this is Bellingham Palace. Very luxurious place, so you can tell that he was born into a very wealthy family. Next, I want to move on to his education. His first school that he went to was the Miss Thomas Preparatory School from 1884 to 1888. The next school he moved on to was Harrow School. Right when he went to Harrow School, he joined the Harrow's Rifle Corps. The Harrow's Rifle Corps is basically just like an ROTC program, getting youth ready for the military service, training them how to shoot a gun, how to ride a horse, military history, and military tactics. He earned extremely high marks in English and history. He developed a great love for the English language while he was in this school. As you'll see later in my presentation, he wrote a great number of works in literature and a lot of journalism. The one thing that he suffered in school was his math skills. He was horrible at math. So as we move on, he was also a fencing champion. When he was in school there, he was basically a god in the fencing field. Nobody could touch him. Every opponent he went against never even touched him, and he always won. After that, he went to the Royal Military College at Sandhurst in 1893. He failed the entrance exam actually 3 times, but finally he passed. And when he passed, he went into cavalry. In cavalry, you don't need a lot of mathematical skills, and you didn't need as high scores to get into it. He graduated 8th in his class out of 150. And then moving on, this is a picture of Winston Churchill in his military uniform. It's a quote by him. The shotness of war, you can't glide it, the raw comes through. So during his military service, first he was commissioned on February 18th, 1895. He was a second lieutenant in the 4th Queen's Own Hussars. That was a cavalry division. He was also a war correspondent for several London newspapers. Being a war correspondent is basically just like a journalist. He would go around taking information about the battles, what the military was doing in the land that they were at. He also wrote books about the campaigns that he was part of. His military campaigns, he was in 4. The first one was Cuba. Cuba wasn't actually a British engagement, it was a Spanish engagement. He just went there to observe. He used his family influence to get him there. So, like I said before, he observed the Spanish military. He wrote about the conflict for London newspapers. As you'll see, basically every campaign he was a part of, he wrote for London newspapers. Also, there's a little fun fact right here. He acquired a taste for Havana cigars. Nowadays, there's a cigar named after him. It's called Miss Churchill. It's actually really good. Next, we move on to India in 1896. He served in the Maklan province. This was a province in India, which is now known as Pakistan. It was just the people were rebelling, and the British sent troops in to swell the rebellion. He wrote his first book there, The Story of the Maklan Field Force. He received £600 for this work. £600 is actually quite a large sum of money. He also wrote for London newspapers. Moving on to Sudan. He joined the 21st Lancers out of his old military group because his group wasn't seeing any military action, and he wanted to be part of the military action in Sudan. He participated in the Battle of Omdurman. Omdurman was significant because it was the last major charge by the British cavalry. He wrote his second work called The River War. And again, he was a war correspondent for London newspapers. Next we move on to South Africa in 1899. He was a war correspondent for the Morning Post. He wasn't actually in military engagements. While he was traveling down to South Africa, the train he was on was actually attacked, and he was captured and in prison as a POW. This is a pretty cool fact. He actually escaped by crawling through a small window in the facility that he was kept in, and he traveled 300 miles back to friendly territory. He was a small celebrity when he got back to Britain, basically for escaping. Everybody wanted to know how he did it and what he did while he was escaping. Next we move on to Winston Churchill in Parliament during World War II. This picture right here just classifies what Winston Churchill was like during World War II. The symbol, the V, it stands for victory. Every time he would walk out in public, he'd always show his V for victory to show the British people that Britain will push on to absolute victory against Nazi Germany. Right here is a portion from his speech. We shall not flag or fail. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. The speech was given June 4th, 1940, following the evacuation of British forces and French armies from Dunkirk. It was after the German army swept through France and conquered it. So let's start with World War II. This is the Battle of Britain. In September 3rd, 1939, Britain declared war on Germany. Winston Churchill was not actually the Prime Minister at this time. Neville Chamberlain was. Winston Churchill became Prime Minister on May 10th, 1940. Neville Chamberlain decided to step down because he said he wasn't qualified to be the leader during military conflict. He stood against Nazism. Winston Churchill was basically a symbol to the British people of hope and courage. Throughout warfare, he was always there, supporting the people. He also stayed in London during the Blitz. The Blitz was the time when Germany was attacking Britain nonstop with air bombardments in London. A lot of politicians actually left London to escape the danger, but Winston Churchill would stay. He always would walk out after London was attacked and see the damage and go talk among the people. So he was more, not a politician, but a person with the people. Next, I want to talk about the Grand Alliance. The Grand Alliance was formed on May 1942. The Grand Alliance was between Britain, the United States, and Soviet Russia, also known as the Big Three. This alliance basically solidified that Britain, United States, and Soviet Russia would be allies until Germany was defeated and the Empire of Japan was also defeated. At the end of World War II, May 7th, 1945, it was the end of the war in Europe. He gave his famous VE Day speech, The Victory is Yours. It was basically just a speech congratulating the British people on winning the war in Germany. Also, at the end of the speech, he told the people that the victory was theirs, but the people turned to him and said, no, the victory is yours, and after that he led his people in singing one of their national anthems. Winston Churchill actually lost the 1945 election because his political campaign set up his election really bad, so he suffered greatly for that. Next, we go on to his later life and death. Winston Churchill won a Nobel Prize for Literature in 1953 for his numerous public works. He was then honored with U.S. citizenship. He was the first person in history to ever receive this honor, and he received that honor on April 9th, 1963. Winston Churchill died Sunday, January 24th, 1965. He died 9 days after he suffered a severe stroke. He died at the age of 90, so he lived a great long life. And he received a state funeral. Receiving a state funeral is a great honor. It's basically saying that you served the state and you did what you needed to do when you were in power. Also, the Queen attended his funeral. Usually the Queen doesn't attend people's funerals that are in Parliament. So, summing up Winston Churchill's life, his early life, he was independent and hard-headed. During his military service, he served with valor and wrote many great works of literature. World War II, he defined hope and courage for the people of Britain, and he helped defeat Nazi Germany. His later life and death, he was honored for his achievements. I threw this, and then I hope I informed you well of what Winston Churchill did. And then these are some of the quotes from Winston Churchill. These are some of my favorites. One of his most famous was, "History is written by the victors." Another one, "History will be kind to me, for I intend to write it." "Difficulties mastered are opportunities won." This is my favorite. "I may be drunk, miss, but in the morning I will be sober and you will still be ugly." A joke is a very serious thing. If you're going through hell, keep going. My most brilliant achievement was my